you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Living the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego. And in today's episode, we are diving into the captivating intersection of two crucial elements in our quest for a longer, healthier life. One being muscle power, and then the other being the ominous presence of visceral fat. Now, your muscles, they are not just a symbol of strength and aesthetics. They are key players in our longevity game. And I'm not talking about big bodybuilder Arnold Schwarzenegger muscles. I was coaching a lady the other day, and she was probably in her mid-40s. She was very frail, looked like she had been under-eating for quite a while. And I know from doing thousands of in-body scans on people that she was what we call skinny fat. And yes, I know this isn't a very nice description, and I would never say anything like this to anyone's face, but it just means that even though she had a very low body weight, like she didn't weigh very much, she had much lower body fat on her body compared to the average American. But if we were to scan her, she would have a high body fat percentage. And this is due to having very little muscle mass on her frame. And this lady, she didn't want to lift heavy. She did not want to lift heavy. She told me that she didn't want to get big muscles. And this is wrong on so many levels, but there's only so much education that I can do in a group fitness setting. And people that come in with this mindset, they're usually pretty set in their ways. So would they listen to me anyway if I even offered any education on the topic? That's for another time. This is not uncommon, is all I'm saying, is that people will come in. It happens on a very frequent basis. They don't want to get muscly, so they don't lift heavy weights. And hopefully, after listening to this episode, less people will think this way. And on the flip side, the stealthier intruder would be visceral fat. So yes, we're going to talk about muscle, but we're also going to talk about visceral fat, the silent saboteur of our well-being. In this episode, we're going to be unraveling the science, separating myth from reality, and arming ourselves with the knowledge to rewire our health story. So get ready to harness the power of muscles for a robust, vibrant life, while uncovering the top 5 threats posed by visceral fat, and we'll go into what visceral fat is as well. So stay tuned as we decode the secrets to not just living longer, but also living better. It's time to elevate our wellness game and kickstart this eye-opening journey toward unlocking the secrets of longevity and then also the perils of visceral fat. But before we get to the topic of the day, I really want to start by thanking the sponsors of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Living the Dream newsletter. Every Monday, we release a weekly newsletter that is packed full of health and wellness content, from follow-along workouts, mobility flows, and breathwork protocols, to nutrition guidance and recipes, to lifestyle self-development, to content from the leading experts in the health fields. For all things health, nutrition, fitness, wellness, catered to help lifelong learners continue to grow, this newsletter is for you. If you'd like to subscribe to this newsletter, please send me a message or an email with the subject of newsletter, and you'll be added to receive the weekly wellness wisdom. And another one of our sponsors is the music app Brain.fm. Use Brain.fm's functional music to help you focus, relax, meditate, and even sleep better. Using cutting-edge neuroscience to get you the results that you're after. I personally have used Brain FM for years before I partnered with them. I truly believe in this app, in their product, and I use it anytime that I'm creating an episode for this podcast, and I also listen to their deep sleep music every single night. My Oura Ring tracks my sleep data, and the difference is notable. So download the app on your app store and use the discount code CoachDamian SD, all one word, Coach Damien SD, to try the app for a free month and get a discount off your first month if you decide to continue on with your subscription. And this week's 5-star review comes from T.S. Dodger. This review was titled, "A Must Listen to Jumpstart Your Health." T.S. Dodger wrote, "Coach D's podcast covers a wide range of topics related to fitness and wellness, providing valuable insights and practical tips. Whether it's exercise routines, nutrition advice, mindfulness techniques, or goal setting, Coach D leaves no stone unturned. His attention to detail ensures that the listeners receive a comprehensive understanding of each topic discussed. What makes Coach D truly exceptional is his motivational prowess. Through his podcast, he has the incredible ability to ignite a fire within his audience, pushing us to overcome obstacles and reach our full potential. Now with Coach Jamie joining, they pack a 1-2 punch of awesomeness. Overall, Coach D's Fitness and Wellness podcast is an exceptional resource for anyone looking to improve their overall well-being. His motivational energy, thoroughness, and relatability make each episode engaging and impactful. Whether you're a fitness enthusiast or just starting your wellness journey, living the dream is a must listen." Damn, that was one of the coolest things that I've ever read. Thank you so much, T.S. Dodger, for your support and kind words. That was incredible. Made my week. If everyone else would do us a favor here, and if you haven't already, if you could subscribe, take a second to subscribe to whatever it is that you're listening to this podcast on, and that way you're going to get any notifications anytime we release an episode here. It also is a non-cost way to really support the show because it shows more people that this podcast is worth a listen. It really helps us out. And then if you wanted to, you could scroll down and leave us a 5-star review if you feel that we've earned it. We read every single one, and we'll read it on one of the upcoming podcasts as well. We appreciate the love and the feedback. Thank you so much. And now on to the topic of the day. If you listen to this podcast at all, you know that protein and strength training are super hot topics of discussion. But I have to give it up to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who is really bringing this topic to the popular mainstream. I personally have followed Dr. Lyon for years now. I wasn't really a huge fan of her style on the podcast that she would be on, as she would often interrupt interviewers and was always kind of talking over people. But over the years, she's gotten so much better. And Dr. Lyon and her mentor, Dr. Donald Layman, are huge in the field of protein and muscle and are bringing to the forefront that we all need to start taking our muscular health way more seriously. They have coined the term muscle-centric medicine. And in this episode, I'm sharing 5 major lessons from Dr. Lyon, which she covers in much more detail in her new book that just dropped called Forever Strong. It just hit number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list, so congrats to Dr. Lyon there. That's amazing. And I've read it, and I've got some great information that matches what we've been talking about on this podcast for years. So let's jump in with my first takeaway to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's book, Forever Strong. Number 1, muscle is the organ of longevity. The unfortunate truth is our bodies become less efficient at digesting, at absorbing, and at utilizing the protein that we eat as we age, which is a big problem since our bodies use protein as a building block for our muscles, for our bones, for our ligaments, and other soft tissues. And in addition to that, it's also common for adults to become more sedentary with age. And what you don't use, you will lose. You don't use it, you'll lose it. Not working our muscles results in muscle atrophy and loss. Also results in weak and brittle bones. And then, you know what that means, an increased risk of falls and fractures in later life. In fact, one study showed that in the year following a hip fracture, in adults 50 years and older, the risk of death increases by up to 25%. What? A hip fracture in adults that are over 50. 50's not that old. Is an increase of 25% in the risk of death. Yikes. How does one prevent this? Well, you prevent it by regularly working to build and maintain our muscle mass. Why though? Well, one reason is having lean muscle acts as a cushion for our bones. It helps to strengthen your bones for less risk of a fall or fracture. When you use your muscles, they pull on bones. When your body senses that pull, it then sends soft tissue, it sends osteoblasts, which are cells that help to create bone, and it goes to rebuild and reinforce that part of the body. This is so important. That's one major reason why those with lean muscle live a lot longer. Another reason is that it helps with your glycemic control, your control of your blood sugar, which we'll talk a little bit more about this, but this is going to put you at a lower risk of obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. These chronic diseases that we're struggling with right now, all of these things inevitably lower life expectancy. So, number one is muscle is the organ of longevity. The next takeaway from the book, number two, eat enough high quality protein. It's super critical to prioritize protein at every meal. And this is especially true as we get older for several reasons. For one, as we just mentioned, our bodies have a harder time breaking down protein as we age. So, this is why Dr. Lyon and Dr. Lehman suggest 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight as a daily goal. So what is your ideal body weight? What would you like to weigh? Maybe you're at it now. Maybe you're nowhere even close. Maybe you're super obese and you'd like to lose a bunch of weight. Well, take your ideal body weight, and that's how many grams of protein you should be shooting for. If I want to weigh 125 pounds, then I'm shooting for 125 grams of protein. If I want to weigh 175 pounds, I shoot for 175 grams of protein. When we talk about the quantity of protein, it's also important to talk about the quality. You want to make sure that you're eating enough high quality protein, which contains all of the essential amino acids, especially leucine, a critical player in halting muscle breakdown and stimulating muscle protein creation. Dr. Lyon recommends at least 30 grams of high quality protein at every meal, 30 grams at every meal, but especially your first meal, your breakfast. This is in order to protect lean muscle mass. She suggests consuming predominantly animal protein to meet this goal because it contains all of the essential amino acids, and it is also more readily absorbed than plant protein is. Note, you can get all of your essential amino acids from a plant-based diet. It is possible, but it just requires more planning and more effort and more education and knowledge on your part. There are some big perks of having a high protein breakfast, and that is that you will have better satiety throughout your day. You will be more full and have less cravings. Also, you'll have more balanced blood sugar, and this will help satisfy hunger for longer and curb those cravings that you may have for the rest of the day. If you need help planning a high protein breakfast, I'll include 3 high protein breakfast recipes in the description of this episode from Drew Prowitt's newsletter, if you're interested. There's a breakfast stir fry in there. There's a Mediterranean charcuterie plate. And there's a breakfast taco bowl. Yum. So check out the description to get those 3 high protein breakfast recipes if you're interested. The third lesson that I got from this book, engage in resistance training and do that at least 3 times per week. Strength training with a personal trainer 3 days a week combined with hitting your protein goals most days, this will make an incredible difference in shifting your body composition to not only lose fat, but also gain lean muscle mass. Now, a personal trainer is the gold standard of how you're going to get to your goals. It's more individualized. You have one-on-one attention. You can make little tiny changes throughout. But of course, we're all in different places, and not everyone wants to invest in a personal trainer yet, doesn't see the value yet. So figuring out a way to maybe self-educate yourself would be another option. Dr. Lyon recommends 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intense activity. She recommends strength training 3 to 5 times per week, where you're hitting each major muscle group at least twice per week. And then she also recommends 1 HIIT session weekly, where you're challenging those higher intensity anaerobic zones. So more simply put, 150 minutes of exercise that you can do for a long period of time where you're a little bit out of breath. I like to almost say, like, if you're going to go for a nice brisk walk, like you're late, if you had that kind of intensity for 150 minutes a week, that would be great. Or maybe you're going on a nice little bike ride, or maybe you're going for a little jog. Nothing too crazy, just 150 minutes of moderate intensity. And then do a strength training session 3 to 5 times per week. If you're going to do it 3 times per week, the best strategy is to do a full body lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Spacing out these full body sessions will be really, really beneficial to hitting each major muscle group at least twice. And then figuring out some way to get in a high intensity interval training session. Maybe it's at one of those high intensity group fitness boot camp classes, or maybe you go to the local football fields and you do some sprints around the track. Sprints could look a little bit different to you as they would look to a professional athlete. A sprint is just meaning a high, powerful effort that you can't sustain for longer than about a minute or so. And it would be something that you can do safely, but also kind of more explosively, fast twitch muscle fibers being used. That type of activity, that type of effort is what you're looking for. 1 time a week. And if you're not quite sure about what I'm talking about, like if that just went way over your head, it's way overwhelming, then Forever Strong, it's an incredible resource. If you want to grab this book, it offers specific strength training protocols, recovery times, tracking tools, and a personalized training schedule as well. If you want to start lifting weights on your own, her book has everything that you need to begin, including 80 plus videos that you can look at, those exercise videos that you get access to when you order the book. You just order it off of her website or order it off of Amazon or Audible, and it will come with that. So if you're not willing to invest in a personal trainer who can watch you and who can program this for you personally, then maybe this book is like your first step. And then lesson number 4, more muscle mass equals more freedom to incorporate carbs into your diet. Carbs are not the enemy. High quality carbohydrates from whole plant foods definitely have their place in a healthy and balanced diet. Carbohydrates offer quick energy that can help fuel our muscles, help fuel our powerful, fast twitch movements that we were talking about when we were talking about those HIIT workouts. They can help fuel our normal workouts. Basically, when we eat carbohydrates, our body breaks down carbohydrates into blood glucose or blood sugar. And when not used right away, our muscles can actually act as a storage site for this blood sugar. It's actually a fascinating system. Instead of converting excess carbs into fat, sugar molecules are converted into what's called muscle glycogen. This is just long strings of glucose that are stored in your muscle. The storage form of carbohydrate can be used during intense workouts or when you go for long periods without food, like overnight fasting. Dr. Lyon calls muscle our blood sugar stabilizing organ for this reason. Lean muscle supports better glycemic control. It supports better insulin sensitivity, and it supports metabolic flexibility, which is our ability to switch between burning carbohydrates to burning fat for energy. Without muscle, excess carbs are stored as fat in the liver and around the waistline. This is a core theme in Dr. Lyon's book, that the obesity and metabolic health crisis that we are currently facing is not because we are over fat. It's actually because we are under muscled. Boom. That is a mind-blowing thing to read in this book. We are not over fat. We are under muscled. So number 4 takeaway was that more muscle mass equals more freedom to incorporate carbs into your diet. And now moving on to the 5th and final takeaway from the book Forever Strong. And that was, what is your why? What's your why? And this was an unexpected gem featured in Dr. Lyon's message. It may really hit home for you once you read the book, because if you don't have a bigger why, then what's really going to motivate you to get started on this path to taking your muscle health seriously? Or better yet, what's going to keep you motivated to keep going? I've had the honor of training all age groups and all types of demographics in my career, and I've seen the elite athlete, I've seen the young child, I've seen the stay-at-home mom, the weekend warrior, all the way up to the 90-year-old who is looking to live as independently as possible in their last years. And I've seen what lack of muscle can really do to a person. I've seen people not be able to get off the floor by themselves. I've seen people lose the ability to raise their arms over their head because of strength and mobility. I've seen what lack of strength can do to one's independence. I've also seen what gaining strength and gaining muscle can do in the opposite way, and that is my why. I want to help spread the message that you can create your dream future life that you deserve. Or you can look back and you can wish that you had. But it's all up to you and what you do today, right now. Now, if you're stuck on figuring out just what your bigger why is, it's really helpful to visualize your future self and what sort of life that you want to live. Do you see yourself running around and playing with your grandchildren? Or do you see yourself traveling the world, hiking, gardening? Whatever your why may be, it's safe to say that maintaining our independence and being able to live as long and as healthy as possible is at the heart of longevity for all of us. And it's never too late to get started. Dr. Lyon's book is an excellent roadmap that provides everything you need to invest in building up your muscles to lead a long, strong, healthy, and fulfilling life. So having muscle and strength is one side of the coin. On the other side, we have body fat. When we think about body fat, we tend to think about that little extra cushion around our midsection, but there's also another type of body fat that's actually way more problematic. It's called visceral fat, and having high levels is associated with inflammation, reduced life expectancy, and chronic disease. This topic continues to fascinate me. Visceral fat expert Dr. Sean O'Mara has been on a few podcasts recently. He's been going around and he helps to connect the dots on just what visceral fat is. He also talks about what lifestyle factors contribute to it and how to keep your levels at bay to boost your longevity and protect against chronic disease. So let's discuss everything that you need to know now about visceral fat. There are different types of fat. You know that belly fat around the waistline that you can pinch with your fingers and jiggle? Well, that's called subcutaneous fat, and it's located just beneath the skin, subcutaneous. Visceral fat, on the other hand, visceral fat is located deep within the abdomen. It's wrapped around all of your vital organs and your tissues, including the liver, stomach, and intestines. The problem with visceral fat is that you can't see it with the naked eye. Therefore, it's hard to know just how much of it we have. Dr. Sean O'Mara, he says that one proxy for understanding visceral fat stores is how much subcutaneous fat or belly fat one has, because what's happening on the outside is often a sign of what's happening on the inside. But as you'll see next, this is not always the case. We talked a little bit about it earlier. TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside, TOFI. There's a certain subgroup of people who have higher than normal levels of visceral fat on the inside without much visible subcutaneous fat. We call this TOFI or skinny fat, and it impacts men and women of all ages, races, and ethnicities. If you're a lean individual, but you still eat a lot of ultra-processed, highly palatable food, if you drink alcohol, if you don't get quality sleep, or spend most of your time being sedentary in one position for long periods of time, well, these are all risk factors for accumulating visceral fat. And when you put them all together, not a very good combo. It's possible to be overweight and healthy, though. If I'm going to mention TOFI, I have to also quickly touch on the fact that it is possible to be visibly overweight, but have very little visceral fat. And this is a little more uncommon, but Dr. O'Mara, he describes this phenomenon as being linked to diet quality. If you have excess calories from good, minimally processed whole food sources, This tends to favor gaining subcutaneous fat over visceral fat. So let's say you eat healthy, you just eat over the amount of calories that you burn every day, and you do this for a long period of time. Well, then you're probably going to put on fat, but you're probably going to put on subcutaneous fat because of the quality of food sources that you're eating. Comparatively, excess calorie intake from ultra processed, not so good food, that results in the gain of visceral fat. The role of visceral fat in chronic disease and longevity is huge. Visceral fat leaks inflammatory cytokines that travel to and negatively impact all other areas of the body, including the brain, the heart, liver, and the gut. These cytokines create a fire of inflammation, initiating a cascade of hormonal and metabolic destruction that results in more weight gain and inflammation. Dr. O'Mara believes many chronic conditions that we see today, such as Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, heart disease, and stroke, he believes that these can be linked to visceral fat driving systemic inflammation. When our organs are surrounded by visceral fat, the body has to work extra hard to deliver blood, nutrients, and oxygen to the tissues. And when combined with inflammation, this takes a massive toll on our health span and longevity. Inflammation is not necessarily bad. We need inflammation to survive, but chronic inflammation is going to be what we're talking about here. This takes a massive toll on our health span. The harder an organ has to work, the more oxidative stress that it causes. And more oxidative stress means more inflammation, and this downward spiral, not so good. It's going to wind up aging us from the inside out. Now that we know a little bit about what visceral fat is, let's talk about what causes it. We're going to talk about the top 5 contributors to visceral fat according to Dr. O'Mara. The top 5 contributors to visceral fat are, number 1, ultra-processed foods. Yep, we knew it. Ultra-processed foods are made from refined starch, sugar, salt, and fat. All these things, making them hyper-palatable and super easy to consume. Then excess calories from ultra-processed foods contribute to visceral fat stores, and additionally, insulin resistance from eating a diet rich in these ultra-processed foods. This is going to increase fat deposits inside the abdomen, visceral fat. So we got ultra-processed foods. Number 2, lack of quality of sleep. Ugh, dang it. Not getting enough quality sleep increases the risk of overeating the next day, especially overeating foods that are high in starch and sugar. A 2022 crossover study found that sleep-deprived individuals ate on average 300 more calories per day and gained more body fat than their well-rested counterparts. But where the participants gained weight was the most interesting part. CT scans, which are the best way to measure visceral fat, revealed that visceral fat accounted for most of the weight gained, not subcutaneous, visceral fat, because of lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation combined with overeating appears to alter the way we store fat, and it favors the accumulation of this visceral fat. So lack of quality of sleep, number 2. Number 3, high stress levels, chronic. Psychological stress increases cortisol levels, which can negatively affect body fat distribution. This is going to cause it to be stored centrally around your organs. Many factors, such as your lifestyle, your genetics, your sex, your age, these all affect your body's sensitivity to cortisol and can increase our susceptibility to gaining visceral fat. So I'll have people come to me all the time and be like, I feel like I'm eating well, I'm exercising all the time, and I just can't lose this fat around my stomach. And they start to like jiggle their stomach at me. I've literally had people lift up their shirt and show me what it is. And some people have like a hard stomach that you can't really pinch. And that is not great. That is going to be a big sign that you have high levels of visceral fat. Professor of psychiatry at UCSF, Alyssa Appel, she examined this idea in her landmark study where women who were prone to stress had higher visceral fat levels regardless of whether they were lean or whether they were overweight. And those with higher visceral fat levels were more sensitive to life stressors. So number 3, high chronic psychological stress levels. Number 4, drinking alcohol. There's a dose-dependent relationship between alcohol consumption and visceral fat. Studies like The one that they saw in Japanese men, where they show that the more someone drinks, the more visceral fat that they accumulate. Dr. Sean O'Mara says this is due to the metabolic impact of alcohol. The more you drink, the more your metabolism is burdened. So your body wants to get that alcohol, that poison out of your system. So it's like a traffic jam. When you put all these other calories, your carbs, your fats, your proteins, your body just wants to get this poison out. So your metabolism is burdened, which creates more stress, which creates more cortisol, and then more hormone disruption down the chain, which is going to impair your fat metabolism and increase its deposit in and around your liver. So drinking alcohol, it's going to be on the list. Yeah, number 5, the last one on the list, being sedentary. A sedentary lifestyle is bad for so many reasons. It increases your insulin resistance. Your body can't get rid of that blood sugar as easily. It doesn't want to put it into the fat cells, and now it's going to be increasing the amount of insulin it takes to put it in the fat cells, and it's just not good in the long run. The risk for sarcopenia, which is muscle loss, osteoporosis, which is weak bones, and that's going to increase falls and fractures, and it's all associated with more visceral fat. Research shows that the time spent being sedentary, and sedentary doesn't necessarily have to mean just sitting in a chair. It could be being still in one position. You could be standing in the same spot all day long, and that is still sedentary. This is directly correlated to visceral fat, highlighting the importance of getting in regular physical activity throughout the day. Physical activity doesn't mean having to get a high intensity workout in. It just means to move your body. Your body was meant to move. Movement is life, motion is lotion, and fitness is medicine. So break up your sedentary activity, even if it's just 10 seconds of a body weight exercise to get the muscles, especially of the lower body, the legs, those muscles moving. So try this. Now that we know what contributes to visceral fat, here's what we can do to reduce it. Number 1, eat a whole food diet and feed your gut microbiome. We've talked on this podcast before that eating a whole food diet and minimizing your ultra-processed food consumption like Doritos and chips and cookies and soda and anything that you don't really know where it came from, this is going to be key for your whole body health. Focusing on this will pay massive dividends for shifting body composition, reducing your visceral fat, and optimizing your metabolic health. What you might not know is that your microbiome diversity from eating a variety of whole plant and fermented foods is linked to lower levels of visceral fat. In one study, visceral fat was more closely related to gut microbiome diversity than BMI or waist circumference. This means prioritizing dietary fiber and fermented foods and greatly reducing your intake of ultra-processed foods. This can aid in reducing visceral fat. Number 1, eat a whole food diet and feed your gut microbiome with good fermented foods. Number 2, prioritize your sleep. Never underestimate the power of sleep, especially when it comes to fat loss. Programming your circadian rhythm with morning and evening sunlight, addressing sleep disorders, maybe even trying things like mouth taping to stop snoring, and taking a magnesium supplement, and setting a caffeine curfew no later than maybe 12 or 2 p.m. at latest. All these things can do wonders for your sleep. For more on how to set yourself up for a high quality night of sleep, you can go back and listen to any of our sleep masterclasses that we've done. Send me a DM if you can't find it, and I'll send you the direct links to those episodes. Number 2, prioritize sleep. Number 3, find healthy ways to manage stress. And honestly, this might be one of the most challenging ones because it's just so personal. You got to find an activity or an outlet that works best for you, that allows you to reset, release, or channel your stress that you may accumulate throughout the day, the week, the month into something positive. Things like exercise, meditation. For me, it's lifting weights, walking on the beach, even things like yoga or journaling, getting it all out, or even calling a friend. All these things can help lift the burden of chronic stress. Additionally, if you can, working under the care of a licensed therapist can be so extremely helpful. Go talk to someone that knows what they're doing, is a professional in this field. Number 3, find healthy ways to manage stress. Number 4, reduce or eliminate the consumption of alcohol. I know it. If you're someone who drinks alcohol, no shame here. I don't judge. I'm not here to judge. I drink all the time, but I'm here to inform you of the potential dangers that come with it. Alcohol disrupts fat metabolism. It increases visceral fat stores, especially around your gut and your liver, which can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and metabolic dysfunction. Regular alcohol consumption also increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, which Dr. O'Mara suggests could be due to the impact of visceral fat on the rest of our organs. If you need tips for reducing alcohol intake, our most popular episode is titled Sip Smart, Live Well, Navigating Stress and Socializing with Alcohol, Saunas and Steam Rooms, Blood Pressure Foods, and more. So definitely check that episode out. And number 5, exercise for at least 150 minutes per week. This is the minimal viable dose. According to all experts, this is where you want to start to reap the benefits of exercise. So try a combination of resistance training, again, 2 to 3 days per week, trying to hit each major muscle group at least twice, 1 HIIT workout a week if you can, and then all that zone 2 cardio, that brisk walking, that biking, that jogging, that rucking up a hill, hiking. Do all of these things to meet your weekly goals, and you will be set up for success. For HIIT workouts, HIIT, high intensity interval training, you can try incorporating some safe forms of sprinting. Dr. O'Mara says he's found that this to be an extra special type of exercise for targeting and reducing visceral fat. If you've never done sprints before, you definitely want to start slow. You want to start small, like maybe 2 to 3 reps, literally, and build your way up, just like any other fitness endeavor. If that's not going to be accessible to you at this moment, no worries. Engaging in some form of movement is better than none at all. So just meet yourself where you're at and do what you can with what you have. Man, the more I learn about this visceral fat, the more excited that I am for it to one day make its way into mainstream, standard, conventional medicine practice. My hope is that in the future, anyone can just walk into their doctor's office and have their visceral fat measured using MRI technology. When matched with the education that it takes to educate yourself to know what to do, this can help the patient make changes to their diet and their lifestyle early on before these chronic diseases start to develop. I mean, we're not there yet, but that's why it's so important to do what we can to help spread awareness on this topic. We will be doing many more episodes on muscle, many more episodes on protein, and also on different types of fat in the future. So for now, we're going to leave it at that and let you digest and implement some of the things that you learned today. And that's it, my friends, for this week's episode. Each week, we're going to focus on sharing information that will help you with your health, fitness, and wellness journey. Share the knowledge that you gained today with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode and include one takeaway that you learned and make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at livingthedream_podcast or at coachdamian_SD and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. Tell us how you have made muscle and protein a part of your life. Let us know the challenges that you may have faced, the good results that you've seen, how you have focused on minimizing the dangerous visceral fat on the body. We want to know. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Living the Dream team that we can discuss on future episodes. I will be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.